Good evening. Topping our news, Labor Day 1989 finds the labor movement in a state of what many see as serious decline. From Kentucky coalfields to Eastern Airlines cockpits, union workers are in trouble. Harold Adams is here to give us a closer look at the state of labor. Harold?
To many, Liz, it's all gloom and doom. But the labor movement itself will tell you that reports of its demise have been greatly exaggerated. Still, unions admit that the 1980s have not been kind to them. The last day of the Louisville American Music Fest was billed as a salute to labor. But looking back from this final Labor Day of the 1980s, the union movement sees its worst decade ever. The biggest losses have occurred in its traditional heavy industry base, according to University of Louisville Labor Management Director John Remington.
For example, we've lost 500,000 steelworkers in this country in the last 10 years. And those were all union jobs.
Despite those losses, union membership, according to Remington, has held steady at about 17 million. The lost manufacturing base has been replaced by the organizing of government and service workers.
Here in Kentucky, 20 years ago, we had no public employees organized to speak of, maybe the firefighters. Today, we have police and fire and all the city services, plus the county services are organized and represented for purposes of collective bargaining.
While the number of union workers has been static, their percentage of the expanding workforce has fallen dramatically. It's less than 17% today, compared to twice that share in the 1940s.
The impact on unionization has been the appearance of decline.
There has been real decline in union power at the bargaining table. Most strikes now seem to involve management proposals to reduce salaries and benefits. But Remington feels that will change in favor of cooperation.
Because we're not competing with each other. We're competing with Japan, we're competing with Korea, we're competing with Europe and the common market.
That challenge from abroad is certainly real, but there are plenty of employers who see worker concessions as a major way to compete. One job, Liz, of the unions is to convince employers to rely on other solutions.
Okay, thank you, Harold. Well, today is Labor Day, but in Indiana, this week has been proclaimed Union Labor Week. The Grand Marshal of the Union Parade in Indianapolis has the power to do that. And so Governor Evan Bayh was the star of the parade as he made his way through downtown Indianapolis, bringing over more than 6,000 union members marching through the streets in a show of solidarity. The parade lasted about an hour and a half and was the kickoff of what Governor Bayh hopes will be a week of consumers buying union-made products. Also in Indiana, a big day for a very small city. Palmyra has a birthday party. Mike Schuh helped celebrate the big event. And Mike, did anybody bring here presents?
Well, just themselves. You know, that's fine with all the town folk. Palmyra is about 15 miles north of Corydon. It's not a very big town, only about 650 people. But boy, are they ever proud. In fact, their effort is the kind you'll only find in a small town where everybody knows everybody else by the first name. In our region in the 1890s, only Indianapolis and Louisville had larger stores than this one in Palmyra. The livery stable and feed store was the gathering place, and 300 people called Palmyra home. Not bad for a fork in the road that grew out of a buffalo trail. Today, on the sesquicentennial, it is Indiana-raised buffalo burgers being forked. Organizers hoped 10,000 would visit the craft and food booths and take in the parade. They might be right. To be 150, you must use a very big cake indeed. William Avery is 87. He remembers a similar event 50 years ago.
I was here, however, at the 100th anniversary, at which they also had a large turnout.
So it warms your heart to see this kind of reception.
It sure does. It sure does.
And on the Centennial, this then-new car just might have taken some similar honored guests down this same street.
It's 1939 Ford. It was bought new by the Pierce family in Palmyra in June of 1939, and I'm the fourth owner.
And who knows, maybe these fresh faces will remember the sesquicentennial during the bicentennial in 2039. I have to say that I met some very nice people there today, and if any of you out there are Palmyrans who missed the celebration, the city produced an hour-and-a-half-long video that they are selling for $25.
You can enjoy it in your own home.
Exactly.
Thanks, Mike. Well, bluegrass music lovers got even more than they bargained for at this year's Music Fest, and by all indications, the four-day event has been successful. What was once a bluegrass festival only is now a full-fledged musical array, including country, jazz, rhythm and blues, and pop. Today is the final day of the Music Fest, which has been in downtown Louisville since Friday. Some 30 bands performed this weekend on 2 separate stages. The Music Fest will be back next Labor Day weekend. To the casual observer, an airport at night appears as a maze of multicolored lights. Channel 32 pilot reporter Reed Yadon says the lights have many different meanings. In this Topside report, you'll ride along in the Channel 32 Skycam for a pilot's view of the airport nightlife.
Standiford Field in the daylight from 1,500 feet above. Runways, taxiways, and obstructions are easy to pick out. But the same view at night, and everything changes. Lights make nightlife possible at airports. The whys and wherefores for all of the lights are spelled out in the federal rules and regs. All of the lights you see around us are operated by the air traffic control personnel in the control tower. This is Air Traffic Control Assistant Karen Moran.
This is the edge lights here, and this is actually the center line lights. As you turn it up, it'll turn up the intensity on the lights.
So you control these lights on the request of the pilot.
Exactly. If they say turn up the edge lights one step, you can just turn them on up.
Let's let you ride on the pilot seat now for a really close look at what you see on approach and landing.
As you're coming down right prior to the runway, you're going to see just a strobe of lights flashing towards the runway, just as they call it a rabbit. Looks just like a rabbit running to the end, starting off. And you're going to be able to see the touchdown zone lights, which are the red ones you see beginning of the runway. Also the edge lights, which will be white. You'll see a center line lights, which are also white. The ones that are off to the side of the runway are the blue ones. Those are taxiways.
The job of maintaining all of these lights belongs to the Regional Airport Authority.
Each one of the replacement lights for the edge lights for either the runways or the taxiways costs somewhere between $300 and $600. The in-pavement lighting units to replace cost somewhere between $600 and $900 just per light. We spend about $30,000 a year just for power to crank up the airfield lighting system a year.
Pilots are able to spot the airport miles out by this flashing green and white beacon. Red obstruction lights are visible on towers, such as this one at the main library and on top of the 800 building. For pilots at night, all of the lights contribute to a safe flight and provide a welcome sight after several hours of flying in the soup. Reed Yadon, Topside, approaching Standiford Field.
When we come back, Carolyn C. takes a look at the limitations placed on drug companies when they advertise on television. And in Jeffersonville, it's the last day of the season to catch a wave. Stay with us.
You're watching Channel 32 News. Judge best TV news broadcast in the state of Kentucky at the Associated Press Broadcast Competition. More news coming up.